And we're live.
All right, guys, have a good one.
Be gone.
Welcome, Josh, the official ranker. By winning the championship, he's demoted Noah. Noah's gone. That's now Josh's spot.
Noah's booted.
But yeah, congratulations, man. You've won your
Thank
third.
you.
It's got to feel good, I could imagine.
I gotta say, I think this is probably the most satisfying championship out of my three.
That's great.
Personally.
Tell me more how this is the most satisfying championship.
Well, I mean, I think Noah summed it up perfectly. Like, I think this was the most dominant run I've ever gone on to win a championship. Because, like, my first one, I squeaked by. I think I averaged like 100 points all 3 weeks of the playoffs, and won when other people were putting up like 140, except when they played me. But this time around, like, the second one, I don't even remember, so clearly it wasn't that Actually, no, that's a lie. I do remember. I remember I won it off the backs of 3 people. I had a kicker who put up over 20 points on 5 occasions, and that's why I won. And then this time, like Noah said it, I started off 0-4, and I dropped 1 game the rest of the way. Like, I think that's a pretty impressive
You dropped the wrong
run.
one, man. You're supposed to drop this one, not one before it.
And I just think the moves I made were all like, obviously we can talk about the Kyron move, how that was like, I guess the one blemish on this entire season, which is a pretty big blemish, but everything else was pretty much picture perfect. Like Njoku, perfect. And then there weren't any other moves that I made that were like, other than just
all the other
back
moves.
out of
This
this
Rolodex of moves. I picked up David Njoku.
Actually, no. That's a lie. I picked up the Cowboys defense. When they were on bye, and they were very helpful for a stretch of 3 games to like really solidify my place in the playoffs. So
Absolutely. I mean, and the Kyron deal, like the guy you got back from Kyler single-handedly beat me. So, like, that one worked out.
So I can
So,
say
like,
I won
Kyler
this
and his 3
championship
touchdowns
while
would have done any
handicapping
better.
myself.
Yeah. It's exactly what you did. No, you
I
had a
made it
phenomenal
harder on
run. The Thursday game went not according to as much as I planned. I had a great conversation with Justin on Saturday, and he was like, not off to a great start. And I was like, well, I am off to a good start, but Josh is off to a better start. Like, very frustrating. It's not like I was very happy with like how my Browns defense, but Njoku had like 100 yards at half. I was like, this is a disaster.
Yeah. He had 40 yards or like 60 yards off the first drive or something like that. I was like, this is great.
The Browns went down to Amari Cooper. It's time for David Njoku. And the Jets like figured it out too little too late. And then just a nail biter second stretch. You lost Raheem Mostert. And I thought we have a chance. And the Eagles, either of you guys get to watch the Eagles-Cardinals game?
I watched a little bit of it.
Phenomenal football.
Yeah, it was crazy because I think I was telling Josh, I was like, because I'm tracking kind of what's going on, and it's like 1 o'clock, like the first half of the 1 o'clock games, I was like, Josh is looking great. He's looking great, like everything's going his way, and then the second half came around. Specifically that Eagle. I mean, the Eagles Cardinals game was huge for both you guys because you had 5 players going in that game. And like slowly Luke gets a bunch of touchdowns and like it's close. And then I think was it James Conner got like 1 more touchdown, and it was like it immediately swung everything in Luke's favor. And I was like, dang, I think Luke's got it. But which is kind of crazy.
There was a lot of what ifs. I blame the Washington Commanders for my loss. If you guys haven't seen the Brandon Ayuk touchdown, it's a disaster. The entire Commanders secondary needs to be fired.
I haven't.
It's disgusting. If you guys are listening, go take a look at it. Brandon Ayuk is standing by himself, and you can't find a defender in the camera shot. Like I could have thrown that touchdown pass with like Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen on my like I don't know how Purdy like was like baiting them. I think he saw Ayuk. He was like, I'm just gonna wait and really make this one suck. It's a disaster. But yeah, disappointment from some of our players. Chris Olave doesn't do much. James Cook doesn't much. It was like tit for tat. Both teams had boom players. And yeah, the Cardinals Eagles game, we got Hurts goes down and gets the field goal. Isn't able to punch it in. And I'm like, all right, this is good. I'll take any and all, like last second yards. Don't want overtime really, but like if we can get a touchdown, that'd be good. But I'll take Kyler just getting some yards. Maybe getting James Conner had been eating all day. Conner gets a touchdown, and there's just enough time left that the only thing the Eagles can do is throw a Hail Mary. And I'm like, dude, and this could be an interception, just a little icing on the cake. And he throws a pick in the end zone, and I'm like, yo, we are cooking. Like 28 points. It's Jaylen Warren. It's Jason Myers.
I thought it was done. I thought it was done.
Same.
I thought it was over. I told my wife, I ran into my kitchen. I said, Tosh, I think I've won. I think I did it. And she's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I think I did. I just don't see how. I literally told her, dude, I said, he's playing the wrong running back. Not he's going to get all the goal line work. I literally told her, I was like, just as a Steelers fan, I'm like, he's playing the wrong running back. I think maybe he's doing it because of the trade or just because he wants the explosivity of Warren. I don't know. But he's made the wrong decision, and I think I've won. I said, there's no way Jaylen Warren has his other best game of the year against me. He had one other really good game this year. And it was when I played Josh. And I'm like, there's no way it happens. It just doesn't happen again. Like, it doesn't happen again. And then I'm watching the game, of course. I'm a Steelers fan. And the 8th play of the drive, he gets like a 20-yard touchdown from out. And it's that explosive. I mean, Jaylen Warren's a phenomenal football player. And he tears off, makes a guy miss, gets an easy touchdown. And I'm like, it's over. I texted Josh Kessner, who texted me, of course. Everyone's texting me. I don't know about you, Josh. Jacob's texting me. Ken's texting me. Kessner's texting me. They're all like, what's happening, man? You're dying. I'm like, I can't do anything about it. Like, I'm just watching it happen. And I literally talked to Kessner. I said, it's pure evil what Josh has done. He's making me watch my Steelers beat me. Like, it's not right. It's not right. And then, like, the Steelers, of course, it was so bad. The Steelers get stops. They stop the Seahawks all day just in time to give Jason Myers a 40-yard field goal. I'm like, guys, couldn't we stop them on their half the field? Like, why do we have to give, like, chunk plays to Metcalf and then shut it down? Like, come on. And I lose by 3. It was a disaster. I mean, and that's nothing on – I mean, Josh did a phenomenal job, but it was so painful. And then I was, like, sitting on my couch like, I can't believe I lost that game. I benched Jamar Chase. I benched Derrick Henry, play the right play in Zamir White, who I sniped correctly, calling that he would play, and Mostert wouldn't play. Like, that was all correct. Not enough. So, just insane. Just crazy.
Dude, so it was so from my point of view, I was for those of you who don't know, I was in Texas at the Upper Room Church Conference, and so literally all the games are going on. I didn't watch a single game with the exception of like the first drive.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, literally, I was taking off. So literally, my flight to Texas gets delayed 6 times on Thursday. I was supposed to fly out at 6:45 a.m. I ended up flying out at 5. Wait, I'm trying to remember the time. I ended up flying out at 5 p.m. Layover in Arkansas, Little Rock. My second flight flies out at like 7:15 Central Time. So literally,
you had a connecting flight in Little Rock.
It's a long
anyway,
story.
sorry.
I'm not gonna go into it now. I'm not gonna go into it.
I know
now.
it
is. It is a full story. But literally, we are on the tarmac. I have Amazon Prime pulled up on my phone, and I'm watching Njoku go down the field. I'm getting notifications that Breece Hall scores a touchdown, and I'm like, this is a great start. Land in Texas. In the Uber, I'm watching the remainder of the Thursday night game of the garbage time. Like, all right, great start. Then literally Sunday, we're in service, and I'm taking notes because Aaron Smith is preaching. I'm taking notes, and I have my sleeper app pulled up on the side, like toggling back between multiple games. And then so I'm following the Eagles game, and I watched Jalen Hurts drive down on my phone. Like he gets him in field goal range. I'm like, okay. So Kyler's getting the ball back. I don't feel great, but if he goes down and scores, I think the Eagles will have enough time. I turn my phone off, and then taking notes. I'm like, I gotta check. I gotta see what's going on. Check the score. All of a sudden, the projections swing back to you. I'm like, oh no, who scored a touchdown? It's like
I tapped out at like 83%.
Yeah, there's like James Conner scored a
Something like
touchdown. I see the Eagles are getting the ball back with like 50 seconds left. I'm like, okay, this is enough time for Jalen Hurts to drive back down. Sermon's ending. It's closing prayer time. I turn my phone back off. And I'm like, I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I'm like trying to focus on the sermon, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, I hope Jalen Hurts has some good news right now. I open it back up after it's done. I'm just like, what's happened? The projections swing further in your favor. I'm like, what happened? Jalen Hurts interception. I'm like, it's over. Like, it's totally over. Then we break for dinner at 3 p.m. Central. And so the Steelers game is just starting. And at this point, I'm like, do I want to just watch myself lose? Do I really want to put myself through it? I'm like, I'm not going to focus on it. Me and my friends are like trying to sort out what we're going to do for food. And then I'm at a food truck getting some gumbo. I'm like, I'll just check my phone. Notification, Jaylen Warren, 18-yard touchdown. I was like, oh, wait a second. I think I've got life. I watch a little bit of the game. We walk to Starbucks. I'm in line at Starbucks. I order something. I check my phone. Oh, the projections have swung further in my favor. What happened? Jason Myers, 40-yard field goal. Turn my phone off, talk to my friends, getting my Starbucks. As soon as I get my order, I open my phone back up, and I see the projections have swung further in my favor. I'm like, what happened? Jason Myers, 43-yard field goal. He just kicked a 43-yard field goal. And it's like, oh, this was another 43-yard field goal. And at this point, I'm like, yo, I think I'm going to do it. I'm like walking back to the convention center. I get a text from Ken, and Ken just texts, don't let me down. I'm just geeking. I'm geeking. I'm like,
Ken, I'm coming to you.
Because Ken predicted me to win. So I'm like, well, Ken, if I'm going to not let you down, you better start interceding right now. And he just texts back, LOL, all caps. And then, and like in the middle of all this, like Kessler texted me. He's like, hey, man, I've got Olave and A.J. Brown in another championship game right now, and they're also letting me down. And I'm just like, hey, man, we're in this together. And then I like and then I'm eating, and then I'm like, I should probably pull up the game. And that's when I see I go up by like half a point. And then you text me, you're like, GG's, and I'm like, it's not good game. He could fumble. He could have negative runs.
No.
I don't feel safe until I'm up 3. Kessler texts me, he's like, congrats, man. There it is. I'm like, I don't feel safe until I'm up by at least 3 points. And then goes final. I'm just like, holy crap, I did it. And Ken texted me, he's like, I guess that intercession worked. Immediately go into the next church service. I'm like, this is a great day.
Pain. Absolute pain. Like, and like, yeah. So anyway, really, I mean, well done. Well done. Well done.
It was a roller coaster, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, at least, yeah, it's true. And, we both had good games. Not like either team busted. We were number 2 and number 3 on the week. Come on. Okay, fine. We'll do this again. We were the two of the top 3 scoring teams. Just have me behind you yet again, like when I lost you the previous time. And yeah. So there you go. No one needs to look at Justin's score in the week. It's useless. It's unnecessary.
One game short, guys. We would have had a 3-peat.
No, not on my watch. Not on my watch, Justin. So yeah, Josh gets his 3rd chip. And we talked enough about this awful game. Let's move on to Consolation Championship. And this was some drama here as well. Sam and Jacob go in looking for that sweet ability to pick their draft spot first. Jacob gets the huge 1 o'clock game from Lamar Jackson, and that's pretty much all she wrote. Sam takes control.
No one went above 10.
Other than Lamar Jackson. Even on the bench. It was brutal.
Oh, so
yeah,
rough.
absolutely brutal. Sam plays the wrong quarterback in Stafford over Jake Browning. Who would have seen that one coming? Nobody. And he still gets away with the victory. And Sam's going to be able to kind of pick and choose. He also has some really good keepers, but good for Sam. We'll get to him in a second. Just wanted to talk about the final result of that one. It's got to be a disappointing season for Jacob as well, just with all the draft capital. But let's start at the bottom. We've gathered here today. Bryn says he's not going to be on the pod, guys, by the way. If you were wondering, Bryn can't make it.
One day we'll get him.
One day. So we're going to start from the bottom. Speaking of, it's Bryn. We're going to start from the bottom, and we're going to kind of just each of us have kind of created a comment or a statement for each team and manager, looking in kind of how this year is finished, maybe a little note of how next year will go. We'll discuss briefly, but we're going to look at all 12 teams and managers specifically. So starting at Bryn, who's at 12? He finished at 12, led the league in scoring, finishes at the end of the roster here. And Justin, if you were to sum up Bryn's season and his maybe future, what would you say?
You know, I just said it. One day. You know?
One day.
I mean, it was it's a season of extremes because obviously he was extremely unlucky, and he also scored the most points. So I think you can immediately say, well, he's not always going to be extremely unlucky. In fact, he's been in this league 2 years, and he's been in the negative expected wins columns both times. So you have to imagine that will change around. I also think we've seen how good Bryn can be with his drafting, and he pulled some good trades, some really bad trades. I think if as I've mentioned in this, I think there's a lot of room for improvement in the in-season management side for Bryn, and I think that bodes well for his future if he can start putting that together. So I know it's rough because he finished 12th, but one day Bryn he'll make playoffs and maybe even win a championship.
Yeah, we love Bryn. We love that he's in the league. And he cracked me up because he posted that really funny meme of the whole league. Me drafting a kicker in the 6th round, drafting Justin Tucker in the 6th round. And I just wanted to read you guys some names of some players that were taken after Justin Tucker. And you tell me if his team would have been better with him. Little game. So let's start with one that maybe is hard to gauge. Devon Achane.
Better,
I think. Josh,
yes.
You can chime in, right at the end. Okay. How about Sam Laporta?
better,
Yes.
How about Mike Evans?
better,
Yes.
Oh no, I lost my. I can't hear you but just keep going. How about Raheem Mostert?
Way better.
I know you said better. I can't hear you, but I know you said better because the entire list is better. So one day maybe Bryn will stop with the memes and go win a fantasy championship. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's funny because he complained about but it's you're drafting kickers in the single digit rounds. I don't want to hear a single complaint when you're doing stuff like that. You deserve to be where you are, So yeah, I mean, it's what he chooses to do. So Bryn, don't come crying if you keep pulling kicker shenanigans and your teams continue to suck.
Yes, absolutely. moving on. 211, and it's a guy. Oh, I spoke too soon. It is a guy, literally. It's Guy. Starting the year, we didn't see this coming. Josh, how would you wrap up Guy's kind of season and maybe a look ahead?
I would say his season in a word, baffling, if I'm being completely honest. Just the fact that he started selling at 4-3, little baffling.
Leading the
It's
division
one of those
at 4-3.
Yes, very surprising. I wonder what would have been with this team because he could have had Jordan Love starting at quarterback, Bijan, Javante, Debo, who was a monster, Evan Ingram, who's tight end 6 on the year, and Jamar. Like, would have been interesting to see how that would have turned out. But he is set up very favorably for the future. Obviously, he's loaded with capital, although, I mean, that doesn't mean anything with our league because no one with loaded capital has ever won. He's got very good keepers, although the downside is
Who are his
oh wait, no,
keepers?
he can still keep. So his best, judging by what I think he'd do, is Jordan Love in the 13th,
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
which Jordan Love turned out to be QB5 on the year. So that's a good possibility, and he can also keep Evan Ingram
Love was
in the
QB5?
5th. Yes, sir.
Yeah, QB5.
Holy crap.
And you
so,
said Ingram in the
5th.
5th. Okay, yeah.
And he
Yeah.
has 2 fifth-round
That-
picks, so
yeah,
whichever one's lower.
That's true.
So I think he's set up very, very well. Now it just depends on how he executes in the draft next year. Because obviously this isn't the strongest pair of keepers that are in the league, which we will touch on, but it's still solid. Like, it's still good. It's still good value, in my opinion. So we'll see how he handles it next year.
Sorry, I'm trying to fix my speakers. Yeah, and I think that one of the things we talked about it at length when we talked about Guy's team, the decision to sell. If you think that your players who you drafted are not going to pan out, that's fine. That happens. I think, Justin, you can kind of relate to some of that even this season.
Oh,
Just looking at
yeah.
your post draft and going, this was not good.
You gotta
Or
read
even
my
if
draft. It's pretty bad.
but like, even at 4-3, you can have a healthy look at your squad and be like, this, I need to change something. And I was just shocked by the decision to just go for broke and sell it, as opposed to, like, there was still a lot of value. Obviously, he got a lot of value back when we talked about the tanking episode. But instead of retooling and continuing to press forward with a plus record and control the division, to just give up on the season essentially was very odd and very not like Guy. And so I'm curious to see what he does with the extended capital. Maybe he just thought, hey, now's the best time. I've never really gotten to trade with a lot of draft capital. Maybe I want to have a couple first round picks and see what I can do. He's a good drafter. So who knows? But very odd. I like your term, baffling. Very, very baffling to me as well. All right. Let's go to the 10th place team, and that is Santos. And Justin, how would you sum up Santos's season in a phrase or two?
Doomed from the start. I don't. Yeah, I don't think there was any point in the season that I looked at Santos's team and was like, yeah, I can get something out of that team. Like it was like this team was just doomed from the start. And like Santos is a great manager, and like I don't know, like yeah, I'd put myself in Santos' shoes, and it's just like I don't really think you had much of a choice but to sell. Could you have gotten more? Maybe, but the team was doomed to start. So I don't think there's in terms of for next year, he's got 2/4, he's got 2/6, 2/7. So he's got more capital. I actually kind of I think that he'll do quite well with that position because you're not I personally like having those multiple ones, twos, and threes just puts a lot of pressure on, getting those players right versus when you have more mid-round players. I kind of almost like that better because there's a higher likelihood that you get some good keepers out of that. And you're not completely I need to win this year. If you get some good keepers out of it, you're just okay, well, I could be set up for next year. It'll be interesting to see what he does keeper wise. Jaden Reed could be interesting. Rashi Rice could be interesting. I don't think I'm not seeing anybody that from a straight draft pick perspective would be a good keeper. I think it would all just be waiver wire. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I think he's set up to have be a solid contender next year.
Can he
Yeah,
take
Santos
advantage
always
of the
plugged
new
in.
keeper rules with his keepers?
Sorry?
Could Santos take advantage of the new keeper rule
Oh,
for
yes,
the
yes.
ADP one?
Well, let's see. No, yeah, I think he can. Oh, is it? No,
No,
I don't.
he has my
think it's
fourth.
No, yeah, he has multiple picks in the
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, and
top
the
6
sixth.
rounds. Yeah, and the
Yep.
6th, yeah. So no, he cannot.
But there is a team who can take advantage of that.
Okay.
Wait, no, Kessner didn't. Kessner made the playoffs.
Oops.
All right. Oopsies. Okay. Moving on. I like everything you said. Santa's always plugged in, always setting his lineup. He's here to play next year, and watch out. He's got extended draft capital. He has been burdened with missing capital for the last couple of years. No longer.
This was the reset year, as he said.
Mhm.
Yeah, no long. No, getting married. Let's. It was all coming together. All coming together. So Mark's at 9, and what could we say about Mark? I think tried and true has a predictable result. Mark's method of drafting, not trading, holding on to guys too long, maybe not being as active as he possibly could have been with some good talent, resulted in a very haywire, down-to-the-wire season. And, hey, if he made playoffs, I think he's still out in the first round. So,
Yep.
He kind of ended up where he was going to be. And maybe a little, what I like to term as Cody vision, with the insistence of having his boys. I'm a Steelers fan. I love having Steelers players on the roster, but it's got to make sense for the fantasy team. That is not the case for Mark. Mark finally cut bait with Rashad Bateman in Week 10, only to pick him up 3 days later, and he's still on the roster. Rashad Bateman, wide receiver 84, 273 overall, has not shown anything at all at any point during this season, and has been outperformed by other Ravens receivers like Nelson Aguilar, or is he even on the squad? I don't know. Other players. I think that kind of limits Mark's ability to, transform the roster a bit. Stephon Diggs obviously let him down in a big way, but that's not the only reason why this roster failed at the end of the day. Losing Kirk doesn't help either. But Mark is in a great situation. He can take advantage of the new keeper rule if he wishes, and he has a couple players that would benefit greatly from it. Nico Collins would be extremely cheap, and he looks to be the man in Houston for the next couple of years. And he also got Zay Flowers, speaking of Ravens, who was worth a draft pick and a roster spot. Zay Flowers is a wide receiver 27 on the year, and was an 8th-round pick by Mark. So, he could keep a pair of them. He could keep one at a huge value. So I expect Mark will bounce back. He always does. He's a great manager. But I think this year is something to be learned from everyone, but Mark specifically. This method may not work or produce the leaps and bounds of success that you're hoping for. Even last year when he made the championship against you, Justin, he applied a similar strategy. And if you look back across his playoff games at the end of the season, very similarly, not guaranteed playoffs, making it by the skin of his chest, hoping kind of to luck through instead of building real juggernaut with the resources to do so.
Mm-hmm. All I could say
anything
is,
else,
like,
Mark? Yeah,
yeah,
go.
all I can say is, like, obviously he gets his Ravens. The Ravens are amazing this year, and didn't get Mark but so far. So,
Mark, but he didn't get Andrews or Lamar. Like
that's true.
that's the
That's
problem.
true.
If you're gonna get, we used to tell this to Cody all the time. He'd take Jay Cutler in the first round. It was like, Cody, if you're gonna draft a bear in the first round, get Matt Forte. Like, he's gonna ball out for you. He's gonna dominate. He's worth the first round pick. Like, go get Jay later. You can still get Jay. Like, he'll be there. No one else wants him. So, yeah, the Ravens were balling out. We had the wrong ones, other than Flowers.
Yep.
Flowers had a pretty good year. Moving to the eighth place, and it's Jacob. We talked about him, and I think that what I would say for Jacob is his season kind of boiled down to having an itchy trigger finger. I don't think he ever really settled or was convicted by any player other than Tony Pollard, and that didn't turn out great. He kept moving pieces, kept bouncing around, and I can understand that. I know that I've had seasons of that where, like, I'm just trying to, ooh, that guy looks good or this guy looks good. But at some point, you got to have to do a little research and have conviction into a player or a situation, and think about kind of maybe the moves you're making a lot longer than the 10 seconds of looking at a trade offer. And I think Jacobs hopefully learned that lesson. I'm not the only one that he made these deals with. And of course, the bonus of getting a free Travis Kelce wasn't as much of a bonus as we thought. He's still the tight end too. It's not like he was hurting this roster. And the rest of the draft capital was there to succeed. But it's extremely different from what it was now. And the man's starting 2 Carolina Panthers in the consolation finals. Guys, come on. If you're going to start 2, these are the 2, but come on. Like,
what are we doing?
and there is a little bit of Cody vision in this squad, too. If there was a backup Viking you've never heard of, he's on Jacob's team. Kieran Hall is here. Just saying. I mean, he got the Ty Chandler pick 4 weeks in advance. Good for you, Jacob.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I would also argue that this is like kind of like a what could have been, because like injuries really hurt this squad.
True.
With Nick Chubb, Dobbins, didn't he have someone else go down? I can't remember. I know for sure it's Chubb and Dobbins were the big ones, and those were high draft capital, big time players. So I think that that obviously was, maybe if you have those guys, maybe he's not trying to make as many moves because their squad is in a good spot. But so yeah, I think injuries hurt the squad a lot.
But like when I talk about itchy trigger finger, like he makes what I thought was a great deal for Puka Nacua, and then immediately flipped him for Taysom Hill in an 8th. Like, it just didn't make sense. It was
I
like,
forgot he made that.
yeah, like, and he made a couple deals with me, like when we were on the pod that one time, and he just sent me a trade offer because he wanted Cam Akers back. Because it was like Byer or Morris, even though Cam Akers went to the Vikings, it was going to do nothing there. Like, of course I'm going to take that trade. It's like very odd movements. Just a lot of, itchy trigger finger. When I say like, consider your moves carefully, it doesn't mean you have to spend a week or 2 considering them, but do the research and look into it and be convicted one way or the other. Don't just kind of go for something that's flashy. That's all I'm saying.
Gotcha.
Going to the 7 space squad, it is Sam. And Josh, how would you sum up Sam's season in a phrase or a word or 2?
Described in his team name. That's how I would describe it. Burrowed in injuries. But also, I will say he probably did the best he could have with this team. He rode with the punches as best he could early on, and he narrowly missed playoffs. And this team, like, looking at it now, it's not a bad team, and he's also very well set up for the future. He can keep Laporta in the 11th, which is just crazy good. He can keep Rachaad
He'll be
White.
the tight end 1 next year.
Oh yeah, he can keep Rashad White in the 6th, and he was RB5 on the year, so he's very well set up for next year. I thought his move for, like you mentioned, his move for Puka Nacua was huge for injecting life, but it was just unfortunately a little too late. Um,
Yeah, great
but yeah,
move in general. Absolutely.
yeah, but Saquon missed a bunch of time, JT missed a bunch of time, T Higgins missed a bunch of time, heck, Jalen Waddle missed some time, so it was just one of those things. I mean, obviously, his one move that he was very much regretting was the fact that he drafted Drake London over Brandon Ayuk, which, I mean, I'm glad that he made that move, but but I mean,
Commanders.
he lost Burrow, like his starting QB, and he picked up Stafford, who was extremely serviceable. So I thought he did well trying to roll with the punches, but at the end of the day, couldn't make playoffs. But he's still set up super well. He can have the number 1 pick if he wants. I don't think he wants number 1 overall, but he has his pick. So
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you hit it head on the head with those keepers. Having that flexibility to really shape how your draft board is going to look is crucial. Deciding where to put that 6th rounder, if he's going to keep Rashad, or where he's going to put that 11th, is going to be crucial for him. But yeah, it's a tough start to the season, and just a little too late, like you said. All right, Justin, anything else? We're moving on.
Nope.
All right, 6th place. The one that's been booted out of the ranker chair. It's Noah Hart. Noah is he's in 6th place. He didn't want to make playoffs. He got there anyway. He got absolutely destroyed in the first round. And my phrase for this Tom Brady led team is unfortunate. Some really, really good draft picks by Noah. DeAndre Swift has been an absolute lifesend for a team, and he cooled that to the end of the stretch, but in the 7th round, that's insane value. Devon Achane, of course, made some good draft or trades, I think. Obviously, Gibbs blew up, but having Josh Allen to win you and carry you ball games was definitely worth it for him. And Garrett Wilson and Justin Jefferson, who was supposed to be the backbone of the squad, suffered from injuries both on the team and to themselves. So just unfortunate season for Noah, who I think really did do a good job managing what he had. Didn't sell the farm to try to make up for it. Just kind of believed that his boys would be back, and it didn't pan out. But he made playoffs, and he kept fighting, and that's all we can really ask for at the end of the day. I think he would be happy with that. But yeah, some nasty keepers. Wilson can be kept in the 9th.
Oh,
Achane can be kept in the 10th.
12th.
12th?
Yeah, he
in the
drafted
12th.
him in the 14th.
yeah. Oh my.
In the 12th.
Wow.
So absolute value there. And he's set up right as rain to invest in next season. So Noah's a great manager. He'll be back. Hopefully he's not as unfortunate as he was this season. Yeah, absolute craziness. Also, I don't think he'll ever want to pick number 1 ever again.
Yeah.
How it is.
Well, he probably isn't going to. So.
All right, the 5th place squad. It's Kessner and Justin. How would you exemplify Kessner's season in a word or two?
Well, I mean, there's only one thing. It has to be. Next year for sure.
Absolutely.
Oh man, it's such a bummer. So much draft capital. It didn't work out. Yeah, we've gone over it ad nauseum about just it. There was moves maybe on the board to be maybe have made. The draft, was huge for this team in the sense that it really set the course for this team. And the course had some promise, but it didn't ultimately come through. Like, this team on paper is amazing, but the reality of this team was rough. A lot of hot and cold players, a lot of underperforming players. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Kestner does next year, because I think how many years has Kestner been in the league now? This is year
4.
Year 4.
Or is it
So
5? It's 4 or 5.
yeah, next year will be year 5. So that'll be really interesting to see. Kind of, I think now Kestner has a really, really good experience to draw from in terms of just what has and hasn't maybe worked in the league. And I think next year, we say next year for sure. I really think next year could be a really interesting year for Kestner, because I mean, he's not going to have a target on his back. He doesn't he's not necessarily, he's down a 7th
And a 10th.
and a
He's not
10th,
down
which is
anything.
really not that bad. And we know Kestner drafts well. We know he manages well. I think we're going to see a very different approach next year. Yeah, I think he will probably be a dark horse for the champion. I'm predicting he will be a championship contender next year, because next year for sure. So
I mean, I wouldn't say dark horse. I agree. The next year is still on the horizon, so absolutely, it's within Kessler. Once we get there,
well, I mean, dark horse in that nobody's gonna on paper, nobody's gonna be picking Kestner to win the championship.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sure.
But I think he will be a championship contender despite that.
Absolutely, I agree.
What is his
There you
keeper
have it.
situation?
He can keep both of his guys that he kept last year again if he wishes. They were on 1 targets, which was, Amonte Brown, I feel like will still be a steal in the 3rd round.
Oh yeah.
Kenneth Walker, maybe less so. I don't know how he feels about him in the 6th or the 4th. The 4th.
The fourth.
So it kind of depends on what you feel like about these other players. Charbonnet could be a good keeper.
Yeah, 6th round.
Maybe. Maybe we find out where ADP +1 for Justin Herbert is. He was able to scoop him up off of the waiver wire. That could be good. Definitely potential for keepers next year. Can't keep Bijan though. That's a bummer. Sad. But yeah, there you go. All right, the 4th place team. It is Kenneth Grenfell. Josh, if you were to sum up your divisional round opponent, a word or two, how would you do that?
I would say this was a classic Ken year. He was good.
It really was.
I mean, it's this has been, I want to say this is 2 or 3 years in a row where I'm always looking at Ken's team dang, Ken's team is good. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the championship. And every year something happens and he gets bounced early. But it's one of those things where I look at his team and I'm I can't complain too much about his team. He got a little unlucky with injuries and circumstances with Keenan Allen. And obviously his quarterback situation was less than ideal. But I mean, he hit with obviously CMC. The fact that he had CMC just masks so many issues with his team. Godwin was solid. Ferguson, I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, good.
He faded a little bit down the stretch. Devin Singletary was an absolute steal. For what he paid to get him, because what do you think he paid? Absolutely nothing to get him. And Mixon was solid, so it was just one of those things where he was. Yeah. So it was one of those things where, I mean, his team was solid and it could have gone, but it was just 1 or 2 things went wrong to derail him, essentially. And I feel unfortunately with Ken, that always happens. That's happened every year for the past 3, which is just so unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree. Just anything else here?
What is his potential keepers?
No one.
Draft capital round wise, he's just down in 8th.
Tua in the 13th.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
You can keep Godwin in the.
That's it.
In the 4th, not worth it.
That's no one wants to do that. Where do you draft the Baltimore defense? Baltimore defense in the 10th.
Yeah,
Spicy.
interesting.
Bryn would be all over that one.
He's got 2 10th-round picks, so
There you go. It's a
Yeah,
free
there you go.
defense. Should
Free
be championship
defense.
caliber. Yeah, not much to go. He can, which is difficult. It sounds less difficult because of the concept of it, but can hit his early round draft picks.
Yeah.
McCaffrey, Mixon, Allen, they were all top 4, top 5 picks, and he hit them all. So he can't keep them, but they all performed very well. A lot of teams didn't do that, which is not a comment on a lot of teams. It's difficult to hit all of those back to back to back, but just it's how this roster played out. So the back end of his draft wasn't great, but it performed well because he was able to hit his top end draft picks. Yeah, Tua could be an interesting keeper. I mean, at least for free. Like a 13 round for free.
Yeah.
If it doesn't pan out, who cares? All right. The number 3 squad.
Or number 2.
The number 3. We got to talk about you, Justin. We're not skipping you. Come on now. Justin.
Oh,
Josh, if you could explain Justin's season in a couple words, what would you do?
As good a job as could have been done.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Coming out of the draft, I looked at Justin's team and was like, not scared of this team.
It was pretty bad.
and then through the trades, and then like 3 trades later, I was like, oh no, now I'm scared of Justin's team. I don't like this. Especially once you pulled off the trade for Jahmyr Gibbs, I was like, oh, Noah did not listen to me.
He got Gibbs and Pacheco in the same deal, bro, and the league thought that was the fairest deal. Whatever.
I told Noah, just wait for Jahmyr Gibbs. Just wait. He's going to be a stud. And then Pacheco, I always was high on. And it was just... And then I was just, I'm fortunate that he lost to you, Luke. Like, very, very fortunate. But yeah, this team.
The league is.
Yeah, this
Lest the
team.
league forget.
I was like, oh, I was like, thank God he is on the other side of the bracket. I looked at the bracket. I was like, I love my side of the bracket. Absolutely love it. Keep all you chumps on the other side.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that we talked about it last week. Justin was my vote for best manager. I, like you, Josh, looked at his team post draft and went, gross. Good luck. And we talked about it at length on the pod. And I was like, Justin, I don't like your team. And he didn't either. And it's much, much better off where it is now. Some quality draft, pickups, moves, just well done. Justin's always obviously a phenomenal manager, and he did I quiver. I stay awake at night, terrified of what Justin would have been able to do with Guy's roster. Could you imagine?
Oh man.
This would be hit the party music. Yeah, hit the party music. Justin would be celebrating. Josh and I would be like, yeah, another win for Justin. He's got 3 now. Yeah, and thank God he had such a terrible hole to climb out of that I was able to edge him out in the divisional round, which was not easy. He still had a good game. And yeah, well done, Justin. You landed at number 3. And hopefully you don't get ever higher ever again. All right, moving on.
Well, I will say, I know I did everything, but my draft was awful. You vote for manager of the year, but the draft is part of my management. So I put myself in a hole, and then I have to so out of it, right? So
that's true. That's fair.
So I don't I did a great job in season, but the draft is just so bad.
Sometimes I wonder if he did it on purpose, because then if he had won it all, he'd be like, I handicapped myself, and I still went back to back.
Winning was too easy. I had to make it a challenge.
I had to draft Alexander Madison in the 4th just to make it a
I
little
had to
harder.
get Sanders in the 5th. Oh yeah. But yeah.
It's okay. I've
good job.
handicapped myself for next year. I've got no 3rd round pick. So
Oh no!
You
What a
know.
luxury to only be missing your 3rd. Speaking of the number 2 team, Justin, how would you describe the number 2 team?
It's a good question. You know, on the one hand, I think you did all you could. The draft was excellent. The in-season management was excellent. Gutsy roster moves in the playoffs. And you just came up 3 points short, you know? Like, you know, that's just, I think you could definitely nitpick some of the things that you did during the season, but like, I don't know what more you could do. Like,
I mean, I think
I
this is
will-
the greatest
I
season
will
I've ever
say-
managed.
I will say, Josh called this earlier on. You made that deal for Tyreek Hill, and Josh pointed out the playoff schedule, and Tyreek Hill has not been, Tyreek Hill.
True. Tyreek Hill got hurt though.
It's true. This is true.
There's a big difference between super healthy Tyreek Hill and Tyreek Hill missing the first round of playoffs because he's hurt. Like,
I'm more talking about the next 2 weeks. You know,
sure, I know, but like he wasn't 100% at all these last 2 weeks.
that's true. So it's like, yeah, I mean, you can nitpick certain things like that, but like, you got Tyreek Hill, which was a great move. You know, like,
Well, that to be said, I really wish I had DJ Moore and Kyrie Williams this week. All right, like I don't know if you saw their scores, they
Yeah.
popped off. Kyrie Williams had 30, and DJ Moore had like 25 or something.
Yep.
yeah. So it's just the way it goes. You just 3 points short. Did everything you could, and that's just that's fantasy sometimes. And in terms of next year, good luck.
Who needs first round picks, Justin? Not me, not this guy.
I
Don't need
know
him.
you didn't have one this year, but like I kind of think next year is going to be a little harder for you because not having a 4th or 5th, I think is rough. I mean, yes, you have,
I have
2/3.
2/3.
I know you have 2/3, but you're not going to get to choose where you pick in the second round. Like, you're not going to have as many choices. So your second round pick, and like typically there is a drop off in the second round, maybe like after the top 3-4 picks in the second round. So like this year you got Derrick Henry, which he was a kind of a first round grade in my opinion. But like after those first 3, like if you don't get in the top 3-4 in the second round, you could be hitting that drop off with that second round pick, and that could be tough, and not having a 4th and 5th round, like 5th round picks, 4th and 5th round picks are pretty valuable too. So
And
so that
and you can't bank on having the absolute fleecing of the decade next year again, unless you are counting on that.
Josh, I count on that every year.
is Brett in the league?
You just got it. That's funny. I think you're right on the nail, Justin. I don't think I've ever managed better than I have this year. Even like you said, the playoff waiver roster moves were nuts. Were crazy moves. And it just wasn't enough. So let's talk about it not being enough. The number 1 team. How I would phrase this number 1 team? Autopilot. That's what I would say. No, I'm just joking, Josh. I'm kidding. What I would really say is preparation.
Pretty close.
Preparation pays off is what I would say for this squad. So for those of you who don't know, and maybe Josh doesn't want you to know, but Josh, maybe much more under the radar, is maybe the most devoted to off-season preparation than anybody in the league. Kessner, maybe maybe beats him, just because I don't know how much time he's spending mock drafting. Like, he's doing it right now. I know wherever Kessler is, he's in a lobby mock drafting. But otherwise, Josh Kobayashi does the research. He looks into who he thinks is going to be good. He makes predictions, and it pays off, and you see it pay off in dividends right now. Those of you who forgot last year, Josh barely lost in a heartbreak game in the divisional round with an absolutely loaded squad that got unlucky that he drafted. So as much as Josh didn't get a Manager of the Year award, it's because he does so much well-earned preparation beforehand that his teams perform the way he expects them to. And of course, he can't have every good player under the sun. That's why he's going to lose some games. That's why even in the finals, it was a tough one. I would like to say that I gave you a run for your money. But this is a team that was managed very well from the onset. Like, from right now, Josh is going to again start evaluating. And like I said, a lot of you don't know that about him, but this is what happens when you know what you're talking about, when you're invested in players, when you're convinced of certain situations. And yes, having Jalen Hurts and Chris Olave as keepers help a lot. But Josh, like, that was part of his strategy. Like, he went and got those guys. When he made the trade for Jalen Hurts at the time, I don't know about you, Justin, I did not even consider, like, oh, yeah, he could be kept. I was like, oh, man, hey, Hurts might heat up, and this could help Josh right now. And Josh was thinking, I've got Santos.
Oh.
And Josh was thinking, I've got a stud quarterback locked away for 2 years. Like, this is the level of, like, what I'm talking about. And so, as much as I made the joke about autopilot, I will say, preparation, this is the payoff of preparation. And kudos to you, Josh. Kudos to you. I think you did a really good job. Obviously, you won the championship, so you did a phenomenal job. But, this season and the seasons elsewhere, you're not down draft capital, I think, right? What are you missing?
Really?
I'm down my 11th. Because,
oh,
because
no.
that was the pick I gave you when I handed you Kyren. I gave you an 11th. I let you go up in the draft and gave you Kyren Williams.
The greatest trade of all time.
And still overcame it.
So, yeah. Well done, buddy. Good job. As much as I'm annoyed that you've gotten to 3 before I could get to 2, well earned, well deserved, well earned. It's been coming. It's a long time coming. So good job.
Yeah, compensation for not getting it last year, but this is one of those things where, like, honestly, I think I only really told Sam this, but coming out of the draft, I was not happy. Like, I was honestly not happy coming out of the draft because I hated the fact that I had to take Najee in the second. I hated the fact that I had to take Breece in the third because everyone just, like, began that run on running backs. But it was one of those things where, I mean, Najee, I still consider that a miss in the second. Breece turned out amazing because he fell to me and I didn't have to reach. And everything else just, like, kind of fell to me. And that's why I've been saying it for a while. But I'm curious when other people are going to start thinking this way. But I've been saying and, like, pounding the table for a while, like, everything's about the keepers. Like, everything, I'm always going to be thinking, like, 2 years out based on keepers and looking at my roster based on keepers because I was able to cover up a miss. I'm able to cover up misses in the second and third round because I was able to keep guys in, like, Hurts in the 8th, Olave in the 7th. And when you have luxuries like that, it affords you a lot of freedom to, like, miss in those early rounds, which I wonder when people are going to start picking up on that. I think some people already have because Sam is starting to think like that with his keepers. But, like, I'm curious to see how that's going to start shaping trades because now it's a lot, at least for me, because when I made that trade with Santos, I was like, he probably thinks he's getting the winning end of this deal. Like, this was 2 years ago because I handed him 2 great players in the moment, but I knew if Hurts panned out the way I thought he would, then I would absolutely cash in on that. But yeah, I'm curious to see how it'll evolve in the future, but this year was, I think, my best job personally.
I mean, great from top to bottom. You talked about it already. You can keep Olave again. Hurts goes back to the open market. for everybody.
Yeah,
But you can keep
unfortunately.
Olave. You maybe keep Stroud at an ADP +1. It's nice. Raheem Mostert's going to be a steal.
Yeah,
You got a
Mostert I
lot
can
of
keep in the
available
10th.
players.
Ayuk I can keep
Warren
in the 4th.
could be good as a keeper if maybe we move on from Najee.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I've got
How many years
I've
left
got-
does he have on this deal?
Najee 1.
Yeah, 1. Okay.
they have to
We
make a
didn't
decision
pick up
by
his
the
fifth,
year.
or we're supposed to. Yeah, we have to make. Yeah. Ayuk might even be
But-
a good steal. I don't know.
No,
We
yeah,
didn't talk about my
that's why-
keepers briefly, but
But oh yeah,
Okay, go
Luke, I was gonna mention like your keeper. You got Mike Evans in the 8th, which quality. You
Yep.
can keep Cook,
That's-
James Cook in the 3rd, I think, and Javonte Williams in the 3rd if you wanted to. I'm not sure if that's necessarily a good direction right now, but yeah,
There'll be value. James Cook for sure
Yeah.
will be a value. How good
Yeah.
a value? I don't know.
yeah, he might be like right where he ends up. Like,
Mhm.
and then at that point, like, okay, do I want to just lock up the RB?
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
find out.
yeah.
But
I've got
Kyler
5
Murray in the
players I could
13th is
keep.
juicy.
Yeah, that is, especially since they've committed to keeping him next year. That's a very good keeper, especially if they draft like a Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh, please,
Oh,
I beg.
but yeah, I've got some interesting keeper decisions to make, which I prefer having because it gives me options. So
Absolutely. And options is how you succeed. Well, there you go. There's a little breakdown, a little season in review. I hope you all learned something. I hope you laughed along the way. I know that we did for sure. I was listening to a podcast this last week, and the podcast, it was a fantasy football podcast, and the host made a very good point. He said, for everyone in the championship games, if you lose, just know it's going to suck. And it should suck. In fact, I hope you really feel it suck, because it will just drive you to play harder next year. And for those of you who win, it will feel amazing, and hopefully that will drive you as well. So I encourage everybody, you are all in the same boat as me. We did not win this year, and it sucks. Maybe I got a little closer to the rest of you, but we're all the same boat. Didn't get the number 1. That's what matters. We're coming back hard. And Josh, we've already had one Kobayashi threaten a multiple whatever. We're not letting that happen again. Okay, we've had enough of that. It's over. It's done. It was fun. It was a fun fairy tale.
Coming back.
Yeah, no, wait on. We can't have just. We've had 3 Kobayashis in a row, guys. All right, we gotta let it end. It's gotta end some point. Sam, don't even think about it. Okay, get us out of here. All right. Hey,
All
it's
right.
been a fun year. We're gonna miss everybody. You guys want to say adios?
See you next year. Peace.
see y'all.